Greetings, everybody. Thank you for coming on board tonight for the Fly Tying Techniques program. Uh, we have a special treat as far as I'm concerned. Chris Johnson, who owns the Living Waters Fly Fishing Shop in Round Rock, Texas, is going to be with us tonight. Um, Chris is the owner and founder of the Living Waters Fly Fishing Fly Shop, and he also has a guide service out of Round Rock. Guided the Texas Hill Country for nearly 2 decades and has fly fished the heart of the Lone Star State for over 25 years. In addition to guiding his home state, Chris has been a licensed fly fishing guide in Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Alaska. Chris is an FFI certified casting instructor, an Umpqua signature fly designer, a Tankara USA guide, and a TPWD angler educator area chief. He is also a pro team member for Whiting Farms, Scott Rods, Dinah King Vices, and Scientific Anglers. Chris is dedicated to sharing his passion for the sport and investing in the next generation of fly anglers. He's often is a featured presenter and fly tyer at fly fishing outdoor and community events throughout Texas and beyond. Chris and his shop has also been featured in several outdoor publications, including Trout Magazine, Garden and Gun, and Tinkara Magazine. He was also awarded the 2014 Man of the Year from the Texas Council, and in the same year, Living Waters was the recipient of the FFI's prestigious Lead Wolf Award. Chris is also a published author, and his new book, Favorite Flies for Texas, features some of the Lone Star State's finest tyers, fly patterns, and their histories. In addition to fly fishing, Chris is passionate about fisheries conservation. He co-produced the short film Unspoken to raise awareness for the Rio Grande cutthroat trout conservation. As a result, Living Waters is working with Trout Unlimited as a gold level endorsed TU business to restore Rio Grande cutthroat throughout their native range. Chris serves as the current state council chair for Texas Trout Unlimited and is also the conservation chair for the Guadalupe River Trout Unlimited as well. He is also a part of the Texas chapter of the American Fisheries Society and the Rio Grande Cutthroat Conservation Team. Chris also serves as a member of the current Freshwater Fisheries Advisory Committee and the Texas Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame nominating committee. And in his spare time, Chris is happily married to his wife, Emily, and together they enjoy fly fishing in the world and raising their children in the sport. Chris, thank you very much for being here. And with that, I am going to turn this over to you. The floor is yours and the vice.
All right, making sure let's see. I'm going to unmute here. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, very good.
I got to get out of here. There we go.
So awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for having me on tonight. Really appreciate it. And Rick, you didn't have to read the whole dadgum thing. It's exhausting just to hear all that. Kind of like you were joking in my spare time. It's it's a little bit sparse these days.
No, actually, that's a lot of accomplishments.
Well, and I'm still pretty young, so I got a lot of road ahead of me, which is really awesome. I love getting to do what I do, and that's the wonderful thing about it is I'm passionate about the sport. I'm passionate about the history behind it, and then the tying side, the fishing side, the actual industry side. Even I mean the fly fishing industry. For those of you that have home fly shops, I mean there's never been a more important time in history to support your local fly shop than now. Just with the advent of all the just online stuff and the competition and even the manufacturers themselves selling direct and cutting shops out. Shops have long functioned as a community center and community hub for fly fishing communities and just regionally and statewide and even beyond. And so if you've got a home fly shop, I mean, and you'll hear me say this at many meetings, don't you dare call us if you can support your local shop first. And I know that sounds like a really weird business model, but I am such a believer in Dance with the Ones That Brung You. If they don't have it and we do and you need it, we can get it for you. That's not a problem. But I would always tell people, like, look, before you call me after we get off this meeting and say, hey, I want to order thus and such, make sure your local shop doesn't have it first. I would highly encourage you to do business with the people in your backyard. And I think that honestly, you know, that's really what makes this sport go round, is that community involvement and the fact that so many people are, you know, serving on the front lines of industry. And it's not an easy row to hoe these days. And it's just something that with the industry climate, I'm just going to be a cheerleader for your local fly shop. So do business as often as you can. And again, if they don't have something and we do, that's excusable. But don't call us at the expense of your local shop. Tonight we are going to talk about CDC, which is Cul De Canard. And Cul De Canard, for those of you that don't know, is the feather that gets called duck butt. And actually, if you translate Cul De Canard, it's actually profane. And I don't curse, so I'm not going to literally translate it. But nonetheless, I had a French teacher walk into the store one time, and she goes, "There's profanity on these packages." And I was like, "Ma'am, it's in French." She goes, I was like, "So you're going to have to pardon my French." But nonetheless, she goes, "Well, I was like, "Yeah, it means duck butt." She goes, "Oh, that's not what that means in French." I was like, "Oh, fair enough. Okay." She's like, "It's a little bit more severe than that." I was like, "Well, great. Then I'll never drive on a cul-de-sac again," which translates. I mean, if you want to look at it as the butt of the road, maybe a little bit more profane, that's exactly what cul-de-sac means. So duck butt feathers, Cul De Canard, they are the feather, and I don't have a duck. I should have brought the wood duck up. I have a wood duck downstairs. I could have brought it and kind of pointed on the duck. I have all the whiting roosters for all the hackle classes. I should have brought the duck up for this. I'm sorry, I failed y'all miserably tonight. I could have brought a wood duck to class, and I didn't do it. But anyway, nonetheless, right on the rump of the duck, and it's really all. You've ever heard the expression "water off a duck's back"? That's where this comes from. There is an oil gland, and for those of you that are duck hunters out there, if you've ever plucked a duck, it's a weird thing. And ducks are kind of gross. I'm going to be honest. I love duck hunting. And I mean, I think it's absolutely a blast. If it would ever get cold down here, I might actually do some of it. But it's just been so blasted hot right now. There's no duck hunting going on. And everybody asks, have you tried to harvest your own CDC? Yes, I have. The question is why? Why would you do that? Why would you go to all that trouble when the CDC feathers are about that long? And you could get something this long if you just buy it, because it's actually bred for it and the ducks are, you know, much better grade. So wild CDC harvesting, it is overrated. If you must do it, great, have fun. It can be done. There is a better way. Call your local fly shop. What you spend on a box of shells to go duck hunting is literally twice what a premium bag of CDC is going to cost you. So just do it that way. It's better. And it comes in all the right colors. It's not just natural dun or beige. So anyway, with that, water off a duck's back. The reason CDC is so special is it is a feather that is oiled by the duck. So there's a little oil gland back there that is the most disturbing looking thing. If you ever pluck a duck and you're looking like, what is that? That's the oil gland. It's this little, you know, almost looks like this little orifice that comes out of their back, and that secretes an oil that what they will do is they'll take their beak and they will preen and they will move that oil throughout their feathers so that it waterproofs them naturally. Well, the CDC feathers are the downy feather that it surrounds that oil gland. So if you look at an oiler puff, so CDC oiler puff, and I've got some up here somewhere. I don't even know where they're all at. I got CDC running all over the deal here. But like if you look at a CDC oiler puff, something like this, or you see these little oiler puffs, they're super small. Those little guys right there, that is, and there's a really sweet fly in there too. We'll talk about him later. But that little oiler puff, those are little puffs that come right off the oil gland. These things are just soaking wet with oil. It's just great. That's super waterproof, and they're great. Oiler puffs are awesome if you're going to use them for like a mid-merger wing, or you want to hang a merger in the film. You can tie them on an RS2 and actually suspend it or hang it right there in the surface film. Great for that. You can get them wet. You can keep them dry. There is actually, gosh, what is that? It's a solitude fly. It's called a CDC biot emerger, if I remember correctly. I think it's actually one of Harrop's patterns, if I remember correctly. That or Stall Cup. I don't remember which one. Nonetheless, one of those greats has this pattern with solitude flies, and it's really the coolest thing in the world. It's just a little tail, a biot body, a CDC oiler puff for the wing, and that's kind of it. Little dubbed head and you're kind of done. Greatest thing about that ever is that if you want to float it, you just powder the wing and it sits there flush right on the surface. If you want to drown it and swing it, kind of move some water into that CDC feather and waterlog it. Cool thing about a CDC feather is once it is waterlogged, it acts like marabou. It pulsates, it breathes, it moves. It is phenomenal. And so I like using CDC, and I get accused a lot of having a CDC fetish. And I also have a hackle fetish, if you haven't noticed behind me. So maybe it's just feathers. Maybe I just really like feathers. It could just be that. But with that, CDC is something that I truly believe is one of the most versatile. It's more versatile than hackle, as much as it pains me to admit. If you were to maroon me in trout country with a pile of CDC and some hooks, I'd be okay. I'm gonna be fine. I can tie just about anything you want me to do. I mean, whether it be a nymph, whether it be a dry, whether it be a merger, streamer, you can do it. So it's really, really great. I do see the question, or actually, okay, good. Barry, thank you. I want a relationship with my customers. I mean, Barry, let's be honest, relationship, let's keep it surface level. We don't want to go too deep on our hackle orders, but if you need to talk about your feelings, we are here for you. Nonetheless, we will have some online ordering in the future. We just don't have that yet. We're still a small shop and we like the brick and mortar thing. But anyway, thank you, Barry, for putting that in there in the chat for those of you who are reading. But the thing about CDC that I love is the fact that it is so versatile. But most people don't know what a really great CDC feather looks like. So let's talk about like a really great one. Let's switch over our camera view here. Let's move the fly for just a second so he's not distracting. That's a really great CDC feather. We'll just kind of put him right there. We'll see if he'll stay. So that right there is a really good looking CDC feather. That's just awesome. And that feather right there is the basis for all of this. And that right there is just awesome. Now, CDC has one major flaw, and that is that quill right there is insanely thick. So I'm going to clamp this guy kind of right in the middle there, that we can kind of get him all in frame. That quill is incredibly thick. And each one of those little barbules, and I hope you can see that on there, this is on a macro lens, but you can see those barbules, they're fuzzy. And those little fuzzy barbules are covered in oil. And that's what makes this thing float. The problem is if you go to use a feather like this and you go to palmer it, palmering something with a quill that's that stiff and that thick is actually a little counterproductive. A lot of times they'll break. Sometimes they just build up too much bulk or body for smaller flies. And it really gets kind of annoying. How long is that CDC feather? That right there is probably 2.5 inches pushing 3. So that's probably a 2.5 inch feather pretty easily. But that's a really good CDC feather. You can see them get as long as 3.5 on the top side. Those are anomalous and those are really, really great feathers. Length is kind of the novelty in CDC feathers. If you look at, if you look in the hackle world, they're bred to be narrow in width and they're bred to be long in length. CDC feathers, you want them wide and you want them, long and bushy. If you can get all that, that's great. The problem is in America now, finding quality CDC is very, very difficult. Don't ask me how I know. Being a fly shop owner, I have access to a lot of different brands, well, really all the brands, and I love CDC. So there were a lot of different manufacturers that produced them for a while. Like, you look at Wapsi, Nature Spirit, Hairline Dove, and all that. All your typical ones, they will have CDC. Wapsi had a Super Select, which wasn't an overly long feather, but it was very dense, very good quality. Those are gone. And because a lot of the graded stuff that you would used to get is no longer there. If you look at Swiss CDC, this is a brand here, and some of you may have this stuff. Swiss CDC, I'll see if I can switch cameras here again. This stuff, Swiss CDC was great. Finest feathers for you, SwissCDC.com. You can't get it in the US much anymore because their distributor no longer distributes them. So I don't think anybody else has picked them up currently. If you can snag yourself some Swiss CDC, it's amazing. It's really, really great stuff. They did this Ultra Select XL feather that was just the best and longest CDC I have ever tied with. It's like ultra platinum hackle. What that ultra platinum hackle is in the hackle world, Swiss CDC is in that ultra select stuff. It's just spectacular. Good luck finding it. I wish you well. There's probably still some floating around on the internet out there if you want to go score some. But where we have managed to get all of our feathers, and I think I brought some up here. Yes, I did. is the classic. And this right here is Pettyjohn. So Mark Pettyjohn has this long select feather. It has that I like that he edited it on that. It's not Cul De Canard, but anyway, nonetheless, talks about all the qualities of the feather and stuff like that. But if you look, these are very long, very dense, wonderful feathers. That's the stuff right there. That's what we're after. Now, they sell it in a couple different varieties. That's the long, like select feather. They also have these, and this is kind of funky to me. They say that these are short selected. Let me get that in frame for you guys. They say they're short. Honestly, you can see the color listing there. They're really great. Those are not short CDC feathers. Those are actually pretty lengthy. So don't let his short feather is longer than most people's, great feather. So Pettyjohn is where we get all of our quality CDC now. However, we get all that. I think this is all, yeah, it's all imported direct from Switzerland. So I have to do some really weird, like strange money transactions, and there's customs involved and taxation and everything like that. Who even knows what tariffs have done to this now? But that's where we get all that. So all of our CDC now comes direct out, with the exception of the puffs, all comes direct out of Mark Pettyjohn stuff, because we can still get it. He still offers really great colors, and it's the best quality that you can actually purchase. So we have a lot of it. Now, if you are a sucker for CDC, let's see, yeah, I've got a little bit of that here. Those are 1 gram bags. So it's kind of funny when you buy your CDC and the amounts that drugs come in, I feel like you do have a problem. But I buy 5 gram bags. And so we don't sell these, but we probably should. These are amazing. That 5 grams of CDC is a lot of CDC. This is like you could stuff a small pillow with this stuff. But I go through so much of this in my personal tying that I buy the big bags. So if you want just a 1 gram bag, will serve you plenty well for most of what you do. And these I think the short ones are half grams, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the little short ones, these are half gram packs. Most of you are not going to go through a half gram with any amount of speed. But if you do as much CDC tying as I do, you go through it fast. It's just a lot of it, and I love it. Most of my signature trout patterns with Umpqua, like the Spruce Almighty, I have one called the Super Sally, another one that was the Mimic Sedge, Mimic May, Mimic Hopper, all those all feature CDC. I even have a new mouse pattern coming out. It also has a CDC collar. And that's the whole premise, is it just adds this whole dimension of light, just this lifelike dimension that you don't see in other feathers, that kind of helps complete the package, and it makes it a little bit more abstract. So let me pull this feather out of here and slap the fly back in here, and then we're going to talk tools and techniques and things like that. Let's see here. Get this guy back in the vise here, get him all cleaned up. Okay, this is a fluff piece. This is a pattern of mine that you can see on the bottom. Y'all should be able to see that pretty clear. It has kind of that yellow, that mixed yellow abdomen. It has a, kind of that ginger colored thorax, brown rubber legs, elk-hair wing. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. That fly can support 2 dropper nymphs at a time because it floats like a cork. You can't drown it, you can't hurt it, and if you want to get it back into condition, if a fish slimes it, you dry it, powder it, and send it back into the mix. A lot of people are unfamiliar with ways to recondition CDC. So when you're fishing with it, and I promise we'll get to some fly tying, but I think the history of this feather and what it's all about and even the ways to use it make it more accessible. And we'll show you how to do that in the tying techniques in just a minute. CDC puffs are easy. You just tie them in. They either poke out to the rear, and you can use them as an underwing on like a CDC caddis. You can use them as an emerger wing on a small emerger nymph or mayfly, something like that. Now, the thing that is interesting is when we have these flies, these are pretty straightforward, pretty simple, but CDC is kind of a hard material to work with just because of the quill diameter. Pettyjohn is the one that revolutionized it for me. And this is what I think the best money I've ever spent in fly tying. Sorry, all my hackles. Best money I ever spent in fly tying is this right here, and that's the Mark Pettyjohn Magic Tool. This changed my fly tying life. All of my signature patterns that I have with Umpqua, I utilize this tool, and it basically allows you to utilize the parts of CDC that you want, i.e. the barbules, and cut away the quill and get rid of it so it doesn't build up bulk or mash the other barbules down while palmering. Now, there's the standard set that comes with the 2 clips and the 3 tables. There's the Magnum one that you can use for like marabou and stuff like that, which is super cool if you're tying like Pacific salmon patterns, like the popsicle or stuff like that. Really, really cool ones that you could do that sort of stuff, steelhead patterns, anything like that that involves a marabou collar. You can now do that without having to palmer the marabou quill. You can cut all the barbules away, spin it a dubbing loop, and it's great. For your super fine work, they even have the micro tool for your smallest of CDC feathers, and so that's kind of neat as well. So the Pettyjohn tools, we carry all those as well. They're fantastic. They're such an amazing tool, and in my opinion, the best money I've spent in all of fly tying. And we will show how to use those on camera in just a second. In effect, the Pettyjohn tool has these really cool little tables, and they look like this, these little kind of clear tables. And all you do, and I have a CDC feather somewhere around here, I'm sure. I had one a minute ago. There he is. You take the CDC feather, you lay it on the table like so, and I'm not going to be able to do this on camera perfectly, but you lay it on the table and you push it into the clip. Once you do that, you'll notice it sandwiches the CDC feather in the clip, or in the table just like this. The ends of it poke out on either side, just like that. But it sandwiches it, and in essence, you have made a CDC taco. And who doesn't love tacos? So what we're going to do next is take the CDC clip, grab all those barbules. So you just simply open it. I'll try to do this on camera as best I can. I'm sorry, y'all. Working on a tight space here. Hold the clip below the spring, open the base, and now look what you've got. You've got usable CDC. Pettyjohn sells a long pair of scissors. Very long pair of scissors. They are not cheap. They are worth it. Come in there, and you just simply take this, and with one snip, the quill is gone. I am left with usable CDC barbules that I can now insert into a split thread dubbing loop throughout my entire tying process. I did that on camera, and that made it look a lot harder. But if you have that against a table where you can push that feather down in there, the beautiful thing is it allows you to mix colors. And that is, I think, the beautiful part of CDC. I can take 3, 4 different colors, mash them in the clip, it intermingles them all together, and I can create custom color combinations. And that's the part that I tell people, you have to think a little bit like an artist or a painter, because you're like, oh, I want to tie a yellow fly. Well, that doesn't tell me a lot. Do you want hopper yellow? Do you want bright yellow? Do you want it as kind of an olive yellow? What do you want? You know, what kind of yellow is it? We're fly tyers, for gosh sakes. We have 80 billion yellows and 500 different olives. What are you after? Variety is the spice of life. So if we're going to do that, how do we make that happen in CDC? Because if all I have is, this yellow and this olive, that's not entirely true. You smash those two together, you get a different color. If you have 2 of the olive feathers and 1 of the yellow, that makes a different color. If you have 1 of the olives and 3 of the yellow, it's going to be different yet again. So all of your mixing and matching within this allows you to tailor to exactly whatever color you want. The stuff that I have done with this, it's just incredible what you can do with CDC that nobody has ever really thought of because they don't use this tool. The tool allows you to mix, match, and do stuff that's just incredible. Now, a couple of references that I would highly recommend. This book, Tying Flies with CDC. Excellent book, highly recommend it. I do believe this one's still in print. If it's not, it's easy to procure. You won't have a problem with it. Features some of the greatest CDC tyers out there at the time. Some of the stuff that's coming out of Europe now, because that's really where all this kind of originated, was over there anyway. But some of the stuff that's coming out of Europe now trumps the stuff that's in this book. But there's some stuff in here that's amazing. I think Mark Pettyjohn's featured in this. I want to say Ryo Shimzaxi's in here too, but I don't remember. But nonetheless, there's a lot of great tyers in here. And the pictures of the flies and just some of the actual fly plates and stuff like that, it shows them used for collars. It shows how to use like extended for parachute stuff. It's amazing. Great book. If anything, this will fill your head with ideas. So that's a great one. There's another book. If you want a copy of this, you can let us know. It's not a cheap book, but Pettyjohn actually released a Pettyjohn CDC book. This thing is heavy. You could use this as a weapon. It is like blunt force trauma if you ever swung this at somebody. But this is an insane encyclopedia of CDC tying. And the beautiful part about this one is a true step-by-step tying guide. If you would like copies of this, I think Pettyjohn still has them available. It's going to be a little bit before we get them in because they're coming over from Switzerland. So this is not something to get on a Christmas gift list. But if you want one, we can definitely special order you one because there's not a whole lot of people that are distributing that book here in the U.S. The author on that Fisherman's Miracle Feather, that's Leon Lynx, is who's the author there. I'll show that again just so you have it. This guy here. So Leon Lynx is the author on that. So y'all should all be able to see that. So if you're looking for that one, that's a great one. So, and yes, Ron, I do see that. You can pre-order my book on Amazon. We will have some book signing events coming up in December. My Favorite Flies for Texas book, it is coming out. I should have that in my hand in about 2 weeks. But it features 50 different patterns all throughout the state, and it's a really cool book. Has a lot of really neat history in it. Some stuff that it was a fun book to write because I had no idea some of the history behind some of these flies that are here in Texas, and got to show off some of, not all of them, but I got to show off some of Texas' finest tyers. And a lot of these flies in the book are obviously available commercially through MFC and through Umpqua and things like that. So we wanted to make sure we put flies in there that were both salt and fresh. And I wish we could have done 100, but it was 50. So that's what we had. But an incredible book. I think it turned out really, really good. And I'm very pleased with the deck of tyers we were able to feature in the book as well as the patterns. So those are some resources, some things like that. If you are looking for the things that you will need in addition to the tool, a very long pair of scissors. So this is that Petty John long scissor. Golly, I think these blades are like, I think they're like 2.5, 3 inches pretty easily. They might even be longer because they sharpen them a little further back, but they're very, very long. The other thing that I am a huge believer in is this little guy right here. And I know that's a little bright, sorry, but you'll see this in a minute. I can actually show you one without the package because I've got one here on the bench. That dubbing needle right there is insanely sharp. It's a machined handle with this really, really sharp dubbing needle. That right there is what I split thread with. So a splitting needle and a long pair of scissors, another 2 elements that are just imperative for great CDC tying. So very good. Thanks, Rick, for linking that book. That's awesome. Yeah, you can still get the Fisherman's Miracle Feather. I'm pretty sure it was still in print. So that's a great book. That book inspired me a lot to try some different things and really experiment with some of my own personal tying moving forward. So moving on, we've talked about the feathers. We've talked about how to grade them. We're looking for length. We're looking for width. We're looking for density. Once you've kind of crossed all that bridge and you know what everything is, now you got to tie with the stuff. Now, what I can do, let's do this. This will be pretty easy and straightforward. I'll throw a hook in the vise here. We'll kind of move on to the tying portion of tonight. All right. Got a hook in the vise. It's just a little TMC 101. Sad day. I think this is it the 12 or the 10 they discontinued? They discontinued one of these, and I'm not happy about it. Basically, general rule of thumb, if you ever hear me say that I like something in fly fishing or fly tying, and you think you'll like it too, buy it. They're going to discontinue it within a year. It's just one of those things that, they literally discontinued 2 of the 3 materials for one of my patterns with Umpqua. And I'm like, honestly, these materials have been out like 20 years, maybe more. All right. So let's just talk about CDC for just a little bit. And yes, I tie backwards. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. My flies just look a little bit different than yours. It's okay. So the way this is going to look, it's going to look like you're tying the fly. So it works out really well from a video perspective. So tying with CDC. Let's start out with a CDC puff here. This is just a simple little CDC puff. This is just a great way to represent things. So a CDC puff is small. Looks like this. If you tie it in, let's just imagine that we had a little elk hair caddis body or something like that on here. I can literally take this CDC puff, tie it in right here. I have just created an underwing for something. So if I wanted to literally tie that in, trim this away, tie that little stubble down just to get myself a clean head. And I'm not going to do this in a super orderly fashion, so just forgive me. This is not a final fly. This is just showing techniques. If I were to take some elk hair here, get all the underfur out and do all the stuff we're normally supposed to do to prep it, get all the junk out, put it in a stacker, stack an elk hair wing, get the little uneven tips out and all that sort of stuff. I normally stack my elk hair wings twice. but for sake of time, we're just going to do it once. You'll get the idea. This isn't for perfection. This is just a show. If you line this up with that, and then come in here, make that wrap, capture it, make a few loose wraps, pinch it, pull straight down. That's what most people do wrong, is they don't pinch it. Once you've done so, pull it upwards. Get this guy where he is really, really fanned out, pinched up. I want all that up. I got a couple stragglers, don't worry about those. Once we've done so, got an elk-hair wing, slip the scissors in there, boom. We got this nice, neat little elk-hair head. If we got some stragglers, and I had a few because we weren't trying to do this exact, we're just more for show here. If you do this, you have a CDC underwing. Got a couple little oddballs here, get him out. And that guy there, that was a tail. So then we got our little elk-hair head, perfect how we want it, but we have a CDC underwing. Now, I would recommend putting a dubbed body or something like that under there to do this, but that's just one way that you can utilize a CDC puff to basically increase the flotation of an everyday elk-hair caddis. So anything like that. Now, we're kind of ripping through fly tying techniques here, so I'm just going to back this off, get rid of that. We're going to take our puff back out of here. If I wanted to tie in like a midge emerger wing, for instance, I could then grab another CDC puff. And if I was tying a midge pattern, you can simply take this CDC puff. This one's a little janky. I don't like that one. We're going to get a different CDC puff. Not all puffs are created equal. Take your little CDC puff, and you can do one of two things. You can tie it in there to where it makes that little thing, and you can literally slip the feather to where you get the desired length for that little midge emerger wing. You can do that. I've even seen patterns that use this as like an extended bubble body. I don't recommend that because it's not very durable, but you can do what makes you feel good. I don't care. It's your vice, your fly. Have fun. You can do that and then simply tie in that as a merger wing and then complete the rest of your fly. Or if you wanted to, and I know this looks like heresy, if you want a real hard edge on it, you can do something like that and trim that for a little emerger wing for a real hard, dense edge. I personally don't trim mine because I don't believe in hard edges in fly tying, but that's just me. So those are some ways that you can use CDC in a puff form. Now, a lot of people, what they will do, and let me grab one of these really nice, long, beautiful CDC feathers. Oh yeah, here we go. We're going to migrate our way down here. Let's check this out. So let's just say we have this beautiful, which it is very gorgeous. I do love this. Have this really great long CDC feather. Pardon my squeaky bobbin. So here, if we take this and we slip that CDC through there, all we're doing is pulling. Don't let it get off the quill. You want a little bit of quill in there still. Come in there, once you've done that, just simply tie that little bit down. Okay, so now all we've got is a CDC feather hanging out the end. We're just going to move our thread up here. Take your hackle pliers, and hopefully you have good ones. And if you do not have these, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because I can't see everybody, but great hackle pliers are a rarity in this world. C&F makes the single best hackle plier I have ever used in my life. There is nothing in fly tying. I even think breaking your thread isn't as bad. When you are in the detailed work of wrapping hackle and your hackle slips out of your plier and goes and undoes all those perfect wraps, and now you've screwed up your feather a little bit, I can restart a fly when I break my thread. But when I have a hackle slip, I'm not a happy camper. And I have tried most, can't say all, but I have tried most hackle pliers. And I tend to hate them equally. So this one is the one that I am absolutely sold on. And we do carry these because I couldn't live as a fly shop without having these. But here, we're going to clamp that on the end. These things have an incredible grip, and they have these little textured pads on the end to keep this from slipping. So clamp your CDC feather in there, and check this out. If you twist a CDC feather, look what happens. It makes this super cool kind of dubbed body. Every wrap you make, just twist the hackle pliers one time as you wrap forward. And now we have a segmented, fuzzy, floating, fluffy body that, guess what? Since the quill gets thicker and thicker, it actually will get a little thicker in the body, forming a natural taper as we wrap forward. So that would be plenty to make some sort of a mayfly body if we had a tail there. You simply cross that over, pull the tension tight, While thread's tight, migrate forward just to keep your thread tension. Come in here, snip this off. You could leave the fuzz if you want to. If you want to trim it, easy. Come in here with your scissors, trim off all the fuzzy bits. Flip your little fly over here. Don't cut your quill. We've got this perfect, beautiful, tapered mayfly body just from wrapping a CDC quill. Did anybody's night just get made? Like, that is so stinking easy. You can do that on an elk-hair caddis, and that's your entire body. And you don't have to rivet. The feather functions as that as well. So I can literally tie that, do that little puff underwing I just showed you, and then tie an elk-hair wing. Our work here is done. We have just tied, well, heck, let's just do it. Why are we sitting here talking about it? I got all this stuff all over the desk. Why not? We'll use one of our puffs just because we can. So here's a little CDC puff. This one's probably not long enough, but we're going to do it anyway. He's close. We'll make it work. Take that, tie in your little puff. Make sure he's right on top. Okay, so a little CDC puff out the back. But this is by no means the colors I would do this in. Just this is what's on the desk right now, so we're going to use it. Allow yourself enough room for a head. Come in there, snip your elk hair, clean it out. So we got some elk hair. It's dirty. That's what's got to go. That's the atrocity of tying with elk hairs. You got to get rid of all that stuff. You don't want it. Uneven tips have to go. Throw it in the stacker. We stack it. Have a nice, neat little bunch. I'm a huge advocate here, by the way, of if you are tying with elk hair, tying with a little bit larger thread than what I'm using right now is actually probably not a bad thing. Gel spun works really good for this as well because you can really bear down on this. But once you made your couple of loose loops, pinch it, tie it down firm, slide it up, make a few loose wraps here, or little tight wraps in front, excuse me. We're just trying to secure for thread tension. At which point, I actually like leaving the head long here. That bobbin squeak is awful. I'll have to get rid of that in a second. Tying with Vivas thread on a Tiemco bobbin, I've still not figured out a way to make that squeak go away with a regularity that I'm happy about. I've tried oiling it. I've tried doing a lot of stuff, but it still doesn't make me happy. All right, we separate that. Come in here, pull this together tightly, slip your scissors through the gap. We give a snip. Anything that's weird, we get rid of it. That right there is a finished CDC elk hair caddis. It's literally a CDC puff, a CDC feather, and an elk hair wing. Super, super easy. Anybody can do that with a little bit of practice. So tying CDC does not have to be this super scary, crazy thing. And I love this. So here on this, I love the fact that we can do this and still have that nice neat little body that floats. And a lot of people don't know how to redress CDC after it's been slimed. There are fly dryers out there. And when I say fly dryers, there's like these little pads that dry it off or whatever else. So thank you. I think it actually looks okay too for just tying with scraps off the bench. We're not actually doing anything in official measure tonight, so that's nice. Well, the fluff beast will be an official measure, and that'll look really great. But the whole deal being, to recondition this fly, you need amadou. And amadou is literally a fungus. It's the weirdest thing ever. It's actually like a mushroom. And you stick the fly in the pad, you squeeze it, and if you look at the amadou patch, it's got 2 water spots where it literally extracts the water out of the CDC. It's not magic, but it's really cool. It's one of those things that when I trout fish, I do not go, well, even when I'm fishing for panfish with dry flies, I go nowhere without an amadou patch. The other thing is I don't use any sort of standard like, royal gel or any sort of like Flyagra or, any of those sort of things, Aquel, those types of floatant, Payette paste. I don't use any of that stuff on CDC. It needs to be an oil-based floatant. And so it's either oil or powder. Those are the 2 floatants that CDC will accept. Loon has one called Loxa. It's Lochsa. So Loxa is a really great CDC floatant. I still prefer like Shimazaki Dry Shake, Frog's Fanny, that sort of stuff, where you can shake it, it powders the fly up, and you massage the fly to get that powder to really kind of infiltrate into the CDC in the dense stuff. Once you do that, that thing floats like a cork, and it's like you pulled it right out of the box for the first time. Most people have a hard time because they don't know how to recondition it. Let's see here. I want to make sure. Brett, I have no idea how much that book cost through me. If you would like to know more about that, I can let you know. Just shoot me an email. And I think my email's in here too. It's just chris@livingwatersflyfishing.com. I do not know that one off the top of my head, just because we only get a couple of copies ordered a year for those that still want them. So I can inquire about that and let you know. But in terms of doing these flies, that's more the traditional methods. We didn't use a tool for any of that. That was just a puff, that was just a wrapped feather and an elk hair wing. So that's it. Now, if we want to complicate matters a little bit and actually use the tool for what it's created for, let me grab another hook here. Do this, and then I'll tie this guy and take some time for questions and anything that, I mean, y'all can talk about your feelings, y'all can do whatever. So here we go. We've got the hook and the vise. Let's get that pretty level for you guys. Again, that's just a size 12 Tiemco 101. I'm going to try to de-squeak my bobbin a little bit there. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll try. Start the thread. I'm going to start kind of towards the halfway point of the hook working rearwards. Snip that off. Once we've done that, I'm going to move all the way back to the bend right here. So it's going to sit kind of right over the barb essentially. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select several different CDC feathers in different colors. I'm going to take some yellow, some old yellow, and some tan. So something like this. Those three colors make a really, really great rear body on a fly. So I'm going to take two in that yellow, and you'll see why I go through so much CDC. I know this is off camera, so forgive me, but I'm mixing and matching. I'll show you the bunch once I get it all set. But I'm going to take two of the old yellows, two of those bright yellows, and then I'll probably take one tan is probably what I'll do for my mix here. Probably just a 5 CDC feather deck. And you wonder why I buy so much CDC? Because I tie with a lot of CDC. So it's 5 feathers just for the abdomen of this fly. That's beginning to escalate a little bit. And I could do more if I wanted to. It's just no necesito. So here, when you're preparing a CDC feather, grab it by the tip, flare the barbills out like that, where they sit at close to a 90-degree angle to the actual quill itself. The secret of using those tables and clips is to put the longest feather on top. In this case, I think I got two really long ones that I'm going to put on top together, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Let me stack all these up. So what I simply do is I flare every single feather and I sandwich them on top of each other. So once I've done so, it looks like, and I try to align the butt ends of the feather together. So what that looks like, it looks like this. It's a CDC puffy wonderfulness right there. If that doesn't make the fly tyer's blood boil, I don't know what is. That right there, that's some of the happiest times you can have in fly tying, is that much fluff in one place. It is a good time, y'all. Okay, we're going to take that, we're going to shove that into our clip. Once we've done so, and yes, you can fit that many feathers into the clip at one time. That's what it looks like. We've essentially made a CDC taco out of all those different colors. Look at how we've mixed those colors all together. If you want these things to lay out straight, you can take a small brush and go through there and just kind of tease them out just a little bit to where they're all laying out straight and uniform. So there we go. We're all good. That is beautiful. You can see, I love this right here. You see where it says pettyjohn.com on the clip there. So on this top side above that little spring, that is where you can look through. In that little viewing window, you can see if you have a quill that is not fully compressed in the clip. So that little viewing window helps you a lot. So now we're going to come in here with our actual chip clip portion of this thing. We're going to grasp all that CDC just like so, where I've clamped it. You open the base like that. It simply pulls away, and I am left with a stack of CDC just like so. This is where you take your long scissors, come in here, and with 1 or 2 snips, I missed one there. Ooh, man, we got a couple. All right, couple of snips, all quills are gone. That is all of my usable CDC right there, separated from the quill itself, making this so much easier to work with, so much easier to tie with. Now, the part that some of you may struggle with, and this has a lot to do with the type of thread you are using. I am going to take this needle and I'm going to split that thread. The easiest way to do that, so you can see it is now split right there. Sorry for the squeaky bobbin again. That thread is now split. I've split it into 2 equal sections. The easiest way to do this, and I might be able to show this on camera. Yeah, I think that shows actually. You can see right where it rolls over the hook, right here. So right where that thread is coming off the top side of the hook. So if I pull it together, look, it's wider where it comes off the hook, because kind of the same thing we were talking about pre-class about the needle in the wing case trying to flatten that material out. The same thing applies here. You can literally take a needle and split it without a whole lot of work right where it comes off the hook. It's pretty easy to split. If you're trying to split it down here somewhere, it's going to be significantly harder, just from the standpoint of it's not going to be as wide of a target. Take the CDC, insert the clip into the dubbing loop like that. I pull my finger out of it, pop it off the little chip clip, open the clip. Now all that CDC is inserted into that dubbing loop. Once you've done so, give a couple of twists just by rolling the thread between your fingers, just a few, 1 or 2 times through. That secures this, and notice how it's already starting to make that brush that we're after. I'm sorry about the squeaks. I can't get rid of them. We are then going to spin the bobbin. That thing is spinning like crazy, and that's a good thing. And all I'm doing is that is draped over. You can barely see it. It's kind of draped over my hand at a 90. Thread goes here and then down to the bobbin. Once I've done so, I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to push the pad of my pointer finger against my thumbnail and move all those twists up into there. And you can see that brush just spinning away. That's what I want. What I'm left with is this perfect CDC brush that now I can wrap it just like you would any other brush, but since it's not in an external dubbing loop, it's actually inline thread. Every wrap I make, I tease that CDC upward, just like that. And we're just going to repeat that process moving forward. And I want these wraps really dense right next to the other one. Just like so. Check that out. Super fluffy, wonderful CDC body. Normally, I do this step at the end of the fly, but I want to show you what this does. So that is a lot of flotation in one fly. What's the direction of the twist? It's okay. I like this. My mic is filtering out the bobbin squeaks. Excellent. Something my microphone finally did right. The direction of the twist is whatever makes you feel good. Honestly, like you can twist either way as long as you twist the same way, both with your fingers and the bobbin. It doesn't matter either way in this case, so you should be good there. Now, the step that I normally do when the fly is over is I trim the bottom flush. And watch what happens. If you trim the bottom flush, you get this really cool open hook gape. The fly will now float flush against the surface of the water, and all that mixed color and that mottled color shows through in that abdomen. That's what makes this thing so deadly. And if you blend lights and dark colors, you will see that overlaid on there. It's really special. Now, we're going to add an L-Care wing. This is my CDC Fluff Beast. For those that came on late, let me do this in the chat real quick. The link that I just threw in there is a YouTube link to this fly being tied in much higher resolution. So if you would like to see it step by step with multiple camera angles, there's a link to that you can do that at a later date. So if you would like to recreate this fly on your own time, the link is in the chat. So what I'm going to do now is I've cut myself some L-Care. It's a hot mess. We're going to put it into the stacker. And I don't give extra credit points for stacking rhythmically, but it is kind of fun. Okay, we've got a stacked bunch of L-Care. This is a little bit much. I'm going to thin that just a smidge. I don't need a wing that's quite that heavy. We want this to be just about as long as the hook bend, if not slightly longer, because keeping in mind that when we flare this, it's going to raise slightly. Let me see if I can do this where y'all can all see that on camera. Capture that, make 2 or 3 wraps. I'm going to begin to flare, but notice I did not let go of the hair with my left hand. That's still holding on, at which point I can come under it, very firm application of tension, pulling upward, migrate forward, make a couple of wraps. Don't worry about catching anything because we're about to cover all that up. I don't care. So here, slip it in here, Trim all those butt ends off. We don't want those guys. So now we are left with what would otherwise be a pretty darn good elk hair caddis. But that's not where our story ends. We want to make sure that we actually have a little beefier fly than that. The next step I do, and this is the one place I kind of contradict myself, I do like a hard edge on this fly. I love the way that looks, where it just looks like it's tucked right up under the wing. It looks absolutely amazing. And I will take that and trim that bottom just at a little bit of an angle, and it just looks amazing. So I love that. Now I'm going to come in here and trim this business pretty tight. So that little elk hair caddis head there that looks so nice and dainty, I'm going to get rid of most of that. I want that to be pretty fine because we're about to wrap CDC all over that. Okay, so what I'm left with is that. I'm going to make a couple of wraps up here just for fun because I feel like it. Paranoid wraps are a thing. And while I didn't really need to do that, it just makes me feel good inside, so we're going to do that. If you have any strays, pull those out or trim them later, whichever. But now you can see my thread is right there at the tie-in point of where this elk hair was tied in. So we've got elk hair there. If there's anything kind of poking out or going to the side, I'm not really worried about that. We're going to come in here and tend to him in just a minute. Like I've got one little rogue hair right here. I can trim that off or tend to it afterwards. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm going to come in with some round rubber legs, and I have a bunch of them. It's these guys here that come in that sheet like that. You could use a barred rubber leg if you wanted to. A fun fact, I can't find but one barred rubber leg that doesn't lose its barring. And if you ever find it at a fly shop, it is exorbitantly expensive. In fact, I think we stopped carrying them because they are so expensive. But that right there, that grizzly barred rubber leg's fine. These things, I think we were selling for like $9 or $10 a package, something ridiculous. But they never fade and they don't break down in the box. A lot of your round rubber legs, excluding the ones that come in a sheet, the sheet ones do not break down nearly as fast. But a lot of your singular legs that have been either dyed or have been marked or anything like that, there's a couple manufacturers, I'm not going to brand bash, that's not what I'm here for, but there's a couple manufacturers out there that make barred rubber legs. Every last one of them, leave them in a fly box for more than one season and watch what happens to that fly. Those legs get brittled, you go to adjust them or something like that, they just pull right off. And so I hate that. I don't like spending time on flies because I tie a lot of flies. And so for me, I don't want to spend time on the fly only to reach in and grab it to have it fail when I need it. So I am tying these legs in exactly where my hair tie-in point is. So we're going to tie one leg on each side of the fly at an exact or semi-exact 90. The goal is we want them on the absolute sides of the fly at a close to 90 and really put a little tension on here. Holding your wing, because keep in mind that wing may want to migrate a little bit because we're still dealing with elk hair, and elk hair is its own little beast. The next step is actually kind of fun. We're going to take a couple of colors here. I'm going to take this old yellow color, kind of that gingery looking color right there. I'm going to take that, take 2 feathers of that, and one of this real dark kind of slatey olive. It's called Beaster. And I don't know what Beaster is. I just like the color. It just is this really cool slatey olive that I just threw in my mess catcher that I'm going to pull out of there. Really good looking color. Flare all 3 feathers, and I'm again apologize for doing this off camera. I only had 2 cameras, so if I had 3, it would get complicated, but y'all could see everything. So sorry, my multimedia event is as multi as it's going to get. There's our 3 feathers stacked in a row. We are simply going to shove them in the clip just like that. Creates that. Chip clip, come in here, grab all the feathers with the clip, slip it out. Now you can see those quills are nice and even and ready for a long scissor trim. Come in here with your long scissors. One snip, we are done. All those are now usable. Take your needle. This is potentially the hardest part of this fly for most folks, is you do have to resplit the thread off the hook a little ways because we've already tied in the elk hair wing. So when you're splitting it, what I'll a lot of times do is I'll kind of almost use the needle like a paintbrush, try to flatten that out, get that thread flat, poke the needle through, and we've split it. Now, if you are tying with gel spun or like a nano silk, which is gel spun, but if you're doing that, this is vastly easier because gel spun loves to split. We are simply going to repeat that process. We're going to spin the bobbin. I just screwed the pooch there, guys. Sorry about that. My bobbin hit my mess catcher and threw all that out of there. So y'all get to see that step one more time. We're going to grab our beaster feather. Y'all want to just see it again, right? So beaster feather. 2 more of these yellow ones. This is why I get 5 grams of CDC, is because I like messing up periodically. Take those. We're repeating that same process, just going to slap those in there. I got to split my thread again, too. That's the hardest part. It's so funny. Used to, you do stuff on camera and you're like, oh no, I messed up. I've done enough fly tying videos now and broke enough threads and done enough stuff wrong that it's just one of those things I'm like, you just roll with it and keep pushing. Take that, trim these away. We're right back where we started, usable CDC. Gonna come in here and split that thread one more time. Flatten that out, which might be a little harder now because I did that, but here we go. Thread is split. Slip that little chip clip in there. Push that in, move those twists up into that. Let's avoid the mess catcher this time. And slip all those twists into that brush. You can see it brushes right up. Don't worry about those legs. You will see those legs. They're going to want to bunch around that. Very, very easy to pull these away. One little pull and it's gone. Here is the catch. Keep the rear legs to the rear. Pull those back. Make your first wrap or 2 of CDC right in that little saddle and pull it tight. Once you've done so, I do another one, and then at this point, I'm going to finish off the rest of that CDC in front of the other legs. Now look at what that has done. By putting that there, most of it goes in the saddle, and it makes those legs pop out in that perfect little X that we're always after. Here, slick that back, try to get a nice clean eye, finish that thread off, and you'll notice by doing so, it flattens that head. You can see that making those couple of wraps, it flattens that head. All we're going to do next, provided I can find it, there it is on my desk full of stuff. I got a little bit of straggler CDC in there I'm going to get out, and we're just going to come in there with a whip finish. That's it. So come in here, slick it back. 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. And I'll do another one just for funsies. Slick it back. 1, 2, 3, and that's good. Got a little thread head there pushing that CDC back. That's great. Trim this guy. Simply tease the legs out where you want them because they're going to be all bunched up in the feathers. I simply cut the front and the back leg. I like the back leg to be a little bit longer than the front leg. And I like that back leg to be just about as long as the wing. And this little front leg needs to be just a touch shorter, and so does that one. That right there is a finished fluff beast with the exception of the final step. And remember, I said we do this normally at the very end, but I'm going to trim that bottom flush. Only thing you have to watch for here is making sure you do not cut your legs. That really is a way to spoil the entire tying experience. Trim this body flush, make it even. Once you have done so, you see you have some longer fibers that are going to move around and dance. That is a super, super durable, high floating, amazing CDC pattern that literally it just has that abdomen that's multicolored, that ginger front. I mean, think about this. That functions essentially as a stimulator, but that actually has some flotation to it. Stimulators will float based on the hackle. The dubbing drowns it, it waterlogs eventually. Nothing on this sinks except the hook. The CDC floats, the hair floats, the legs even float. Everything's going to be floating like a cork. It will support a dropper nymph with no problem at all. And this calls up some pretty incredible fish. I get a lot of reports from clients and customers. This is actually not a fly available in the commercial market. You have to tie these yourself. But I have fished this fly in some of those pressured water. I fished it in the eastern states. I fished it out west. I obviously fished it down here. This thing absolutely slays. Bass like it, panfish like it, trout love it. So just a great all-round pattern for an attractor dry pattern that involves CDC, hair, and legs, and a hook. Not all that complex on a material listing, but that's a really fun one for you guys. I do have the link in there to see the video again if you would like to do that. Yeah, Beaster is, it's actually spelled B-I-S-T-R-E. It's Bistre. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, what thread am I using to split? That is a 10-aught Vivus. So just so y'all can see that, that is a 10-aught. Let's get that in the, there we go, direction y'all can see. 10-aught Vivus, and this is just that tan colorway. That's all that is. So that's all I'm using to split. So with that, we've been at it an hour. Y'all should have an earful of CDC. I will happily take some questions, comments. You want to talk about your feelings. I'll stay on here for a bit and do as much Q&A as I can. But yeah, thank y'all so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. Hopefully y'all learned something. And as always, if you need anything, we obviously are here to help you with it. Please do business with your local fly shop first. Again, if they can't help you out or they don't carry the necessary product, because obviously we have a pretty big product deck here, we are happy to help anybody anywhere. Just give us a call or send me an email. My email directly is chris@livingwatersflyfishing.com. If you want to contact me directly, that is completely fine. And I will respond to that. And if it's stuff that we can pass on to Melody or somebody like that, we can get our store manager to handle a lot of the orders and get that all packed and headed your direction if you need it. So whether it be Hackle, CDC, whatever else, we got you. I know we will probably run out of CDC or at least some colors after this. It's okay. We will have more. So we can special order stuff for you. Yeah. Well, the shop's closed right now, so you're toast. I'm at the shop, but the register is not open. So that's a tomorrow thing for you guys.
All right. Anybody have questions? I see Rick Russo got his hand raised.
Chris, do you believe that the preen oil stays on the feather through the processing that it has to go through, cleaning and disinfecting and so forth and so on, to sell the retail product?
I do. I think a lot of that does stay on there. And the whole reason being is that, like, in fact, I want to say even in here, it's kind of fun. I don't know if it'll show this. It goes through some of this. I do believe that a fair amount of that oil does stay on there. There is an introduction to CDC in this book, and it's so cool. I don't know if they show it. They actually have a microscopic view of this stuff, and it actually shows the oil droplets on the feather. And if I remember correctly, I want to say that the one that's pictured is actually a dyed feather. It was pretty cool. They actually show, let's see if it's in here. I don't know if they've got it in here. It's in the book, but if you look, you'll find there is actually a feather, CDC feather characteristics and usage. Yeah, here it is. This is super cool. So you can see, I'll zoom in on this with but see the oil droplets actually on the feather. Wow. It's super cool. So, I mean, it's a really neat cross section. If you'll notice, that's not a natural feather in this case, more than likely. That's probably a dyed feather. So kind of neat, but even if only some of that stays on there, the waterproofing factor of this thing, it obviously keeps it because they float like mad. So,
and you can buy a bottle of the preen oil now.
Yes, you can. Yeah, the ducks probably don't enjoy that process. Just a guess, but nonetheless, I would say the preen oil, anything like that. CDC oil comes in many forms. You can cure it with Loxa and stuff like that, or naturally re-oil the feather. I don't worry about that too much, just simply because they already float so well. Let's see here. How do I fish the fluff beast? You can dead drift it. You can twitch it. You can use it to skate it. I've even skated it across rapids and stuff like that, and the fish love it. But honestly, as an attractor dry fly with a dropper under it, you're going to be hard pressed to find, with the exception of like a chubby Chernobyl that has that sort of flotation property. This is the natural alternative to a chubby Chernobyl. Really.
Cool.
Yeah,
now that you brought up dyeing, I never thought about dyeing CDC before. That's got to be an interesting process.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the hard part about dyeing is a lot of times they become very brittle. Like if you think about, for instance, black deer hair, finding black deer hair that's not brittle, there are very, very few people and manufacturers that can put out a black deer hair that won't just immediately split when you put thread tension on it. Varner's is one of those that Josh Varner does a really, really great job, and that's what we carry in store. His black is, he does a much more tender dye job and conditions the pelt a lot better than most of the other manufacturers. Varner's does amazing work in his deer hair. I think he's moving to Idaho pretty soon, and when he does that, he was talking about getting into Montana. Thank you.
Yeah, he's moving back to Montana. Yeah.
Great. So if he goes back there, he talked about picking up elk pelts after that.
Yes.
If Josh Varner ever does elk, I might cry. I mean, it's spectacular. Finding great elk hair, like when I say great elk hair, I mean great. I know what I want in an elk hair. I love select cow elk. I want it to have a really blunt tip. I want it to have a really wide base, and it needs to have a pretty short overall hair structure, and it needs to be somewhat spongy. If you can find that, I mean, that's harder to find for me than a Cree hackle. And I'm not kidding. I'm so picky about my elk hair. The stuff I'm tying with tonight, I don't even like. It's just, Ah, man, I just love that stuff. And it's so hard to find. Even owning a fly shop and as much elk hair as we get through this place, I don't see a whole lot of what I would call like, ultra prime elk hair anymore. It's very difficult to get.
I'm linking
Sean,
them up with the elk.
I see the question here. What the drying pad I mentioned for CDC flies? It's called an Amadou patch. Amadou, Amadou, and it's actually a fungus. The reconditioning product, Lori, that is, you can either get Petty John sells an oil. You can also just condition it with like an oil-based floatant like Loon Loxa. It'll do a pretty good job as well.
Chris,
Yeah.
the mixing of colors. Can you give any guidance as to how people who want to try that should approach it? It seemed like you were taking two lighter colors, one darker color. How do we approach the natural with less trial and error between being at the bench and being on the water? If you were to give us some guidance on that, over.
This is going to sound really stupid, but just go with me for a minute. I told you need to think like an artist or a painter. And if you're not much of an artist, then I feel you. I mean, there's times that I actually, believe it or not, I'm a halfway decent artist. I'm no Whitlock by any means. That's another grade. But the thing that I enjoy about art is the fact that it teaches you the management and mixing of colors. You can literally go buy yourself a set of Prismacolor colored pencils, and on a white piece of paper, you can mix colors and see, literally you can match those colors to your CDC feathers and scribble a little color swatch right there and mix them right there on site. And that's a really good way to kind of think about like, oh, how does this react or play with that? And it's really cool because a Prismacolor set has most of the shades you're going to be tying with in CDC anyway. And even if it's not exact, it's going to get you in the ballpark. It's really kind of a neat way. Don't like bear down on it. Just really soft scribble on the color swatch. And because remember, CDC feathers aren't solid, they're translucent. You can see through them. So a light color shade with another shade over it, another shade over it, you're going to see almost exactly what that mixing is going to look like on a hook when trimmed.
There's a question for you, Chris. I know you like the Petty Johns, but I've been using the Swiss CDC clamps with their dubbing tool.
Right.
Opinion?
For one, if I'm correct, I think they actually discontinued that. I have the distributor we used to get the Swiss CDC product from, it's gone. And I think part of that is because Swiss CDC is no longer distributed here for the most part.
Yeah, Chris, they're putting them out under another manufacturer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's out under another name now, and I'm aware of that. I do like the fact that it has the measurement tool and it's really exact and they're really hard edged. Honestly, I like the Petty John better. And you can use them. The thing about the Petty John that separates it is the tables. If you have those tables, that's what makes it different. And I think Petty John's is the best. I know there's a couple other, lookalikes and stuff like that out there, but I just stick to the original. Mark had it dialed. And Mark has a lot of really great videos out there. There's a way to tie a parachute with an indicator post that you can actually wrap CDC around. You don't have to tie a parachute. You literally, if you split it, you put a little piece of, he has these little loop clamps that he puts on there. You put pink in, clamp the loop, put your next color in, spin the whole thing, you put your pink in and you simply wrap it, stroke it all vertically, and then kind of figure eight the rest of your CDC around it. And once you've done that, you have front and back CDC with a pink post in the middle. You trim it flush. It makes a parachute around the thing, but you can still see it. It's flipping genius. I mean, like, the guy, like, not every tool of his is my absolute favorite, but those long scissors and his dubbing twister, my gosh, his dubbing twister changed my life because it is spring tension to where you can literally slide it closed and make it work. And it actually keeps a loop closed. So if you can't split thread and you want to do this but keep a loop closed, that dubbing twister is what's up. We carry that one too. That's one that I use on a lot of my extended body bass flies for how well it works. It is absolutely spectacular. John, I got a question. If I will be at the Denver Fly Show, odd that you should ask. That is a possibility. I'm looking to see if I can make that this year. I actually don't currently have any conflicts on that weekend. I just have to see about the travel situation, so I will look.
And Chris will be at Salbug.
I will be at Salbug, yeah. And for the local guys, I'll be at TRWD Fly Fest in Fort Worth. If you're up in the Dallas area, I'll be tying at that. I'll have a table set up there. I'll be at Salbug this year. And then, of course, obviously, I'm here more than I'm not at the shop. So if you need to get a hold of me, it's not too terribly hard. Yeah, and yeah, if you're coming through Friday, Saturday, we're open both those days. What weekend did you say?
It'll be the Wednesday after the first Wednesday in December.
So on the 6th, I think is that next Wednesday, if I'm correct, or excuse me, the next Saturday. I think I'm doing a Guadalupe River fly fishing class up here. So I should be in that whole Saturday. The following weekend is our shop Christmas party up here that involves all of our customers. So if y'all would like something, and for especially those that are living out of town, we do a really cool thing. In fact, I'll let you in on something. I'll put it back on the fly real quick so y'all can look at something besides me walking. Check this out. We've got some really cool giveaways that we do at our Christmas party, including, check this out. We got one of these guys in the mix that is a very long platinum that we're giving away. And this one's super cool because it actually has brakes. See, it'll be a little hard to see on camera, but it actually has black color brakes mid-feather. It's very unique. I don't see that color a lot at all, where it actually has brakes in the hackle. It's very unique, very beautiful. That's one of our giveaway prizes at the Christmas party. So if you would like to be a part of that, you can, for every $10 you spend in store on that date, and it's the second weekend in December, whatever that is, I think it's the 13th, I think it is, 13th, 14th, somewhere in there, I think 13th. On that day, for every $10 you spend in the store, you get a ticket to go into our prize drawings, and we'll have fly tying stuff. I think we got a Scott and Ross combo. I mean, that's a rod and reel combo that can value up to $2,000 darn near. So you're looking at, that's a pretty darn good prize just for doing a little shopping. So for those of you that can't be here in the flesh, you can actually do a call-in order, and we'll mail it to you, but you will still get credit for all that. You just tell us where you want your tickets to go. The entire prize listing is on the website.
Well, guys, any other questions or comments for Chris real quick? And
yeah, I'll hang around a little bit. If y'all got questions, I'll absolutely answer.
Book that you were mentioning, what does that run?
Which one?
The one from the distributor.
Oh, from Petty John CDC? I'm not 100% sure because I don't know if he's price changed with some of the tariffs and stuff. But if you want to send me an email, I will get you a price on that. Absolutely, okay. I will. I don't know that off the top of my head. It's not one we regularly carry in store, but for the hardcore people that really want to dig into this, I have ordered those in, and they've done a great job of getting me copies. I'll be really honest. Mark does a fantastic job. He and his wife Ruth are the sweetest people imaginable. It's just they are the sweetest people.
Yeah, the tying flies with CDC paperback version is $28.50 through Amazon.
Not bad.
If you want the hardcover, it's going to cost you $245.
Oh man, I feel really good about that book right now.
Well, and that's for the new hard copy. You can get used hard copies less.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor too. Look up Half Price Books and see if you can find one in their database too. That's usually a good way of doing it. Lori, I see your question there. You're new to fly fishing. What are the best color choices for Texas fish? Honestly, that's a very loaded question because it depends on what you're fishing for and where you're fishing. That can vary widely within the state. Like if you're in East Texas where the water's a little bit more tannic or tea colored, that can change. If you're in the hill country, a lot of olives and browns and tans, white, all those do very, very well. If you're fishing bait fish, general rule of thumb, kind of hard to go wrong with white. If you're fishing clear water, kind of hard to go wrong with olive. So it's just one of those things that, again, where you're going, what you're doing, and what you're fishing for determines all of that. But olive and white are two that you just must have in the box that are really versatile. So good question, though. What else? I can stay on for a couple more minutes if anybody's got anything.
Yep. We need to start looking at wrapping this up. So if you got any last questions, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for being here. Always a pleasure to be with you guys. And man, if y'all need anything, once again, just give us a shout, and happy to help however we can. And really appreciate y'all being part of the fly tying and fly fishing community. People like y'all make the world go around for us and for many people across this wonderful nation and beyond. And honestly, I love what we get to do through the art of fly tying and however we can pass along that passion and share that knowledge. Man, all the greater for it on all counts. So thank you guys for listening and for being a part of tonight. Y'all have a wonderful night, and we'll see you again next time.
All right. What are you going to do for us next?
What do y'all want?
We'll talk.
Oh boy.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your expertise. You're a joy to have
Thanks,
on
Chris.
here.
Absolutely, man. Thank y'all so much for having me. It's always great to be around the fly tying brothers and sisters. It's a great thing. Thank
All
y'all.
right. Take
Bye.
care, Chris.
You bet. Y'all have a wonderful evening. We'll see y'all next time.
All right.
Thanks.
Good night. All right. That was awesome. Absolutely 100% awesome. So let's go ahead. I got to do a couple of things here real quick, and we'll go on down the road and wait for 2 weeks and do it all over again. So here's my recruiting shot. If you don't belong, please think about joining Fly Fishers International. And if you do belong and you want to become a part of the fly tying group, we would love to have you, without a doubt. And I think you'll be really happy and pleased with all the various things that we're doing. You can join at the same time, both the FFI and the FTG. So if you want to see the recordings for the first 2 seasons and for this one, go to www.yahoo.com/@fedflyfishers and /playlist, and you'll see the fly tying techniques real close to the top of the playlist. So feel free, and I think this is one that I'm going to have to get up there real quick, because Chris introduced to us a lot of really, really interesting things. So that's where you can find the videos. And finally, who's up next? Okay, on the 18th of November, we have John Wright. A lot of you know John, and if you don't, you heard of him. Anyway, John's going to be talking to us about working with disabled vets on how to tie flies and the various issues that they have to go through and why it's so important to get them into December 2nd. And then after he's done talking about the disabled vets and showing us how to tie one-handed, he's going to give us a bit of an introduction to the tenkara style fishing. I know there's fly fishermen that kind of wrinkle their nose at that. I got involved, and I think it's fantastic. And John loves it. He absolutely loves it. So he's going to give you a little bit of history, and he'll talk about that particular style of Japanese fly fishing. So with that, any final questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. If not, I will see you on December 2nd, I hope, and bring a friend. We love to grow this tonight. You guys did us proud. I saw 117 people on here at one point in time, and Bill let me know if there were more.
118.
118 altogether. I didn't see that. So, all right. You all take care. Have a great evening, and I will see you on December 2nd. Good night.